Hello and welcome to Logic Queen's Book Reviews. My name is Logic Queen and I'm going to be reviewing some books. This first video is just kind of an introduction to what I'm going to be doing and the format I'm using to review my books. So this is the first slide. Here I have a stack of books, but I will have today's book in that picture there along with the book bingo section that book covers. So I'm doing book bingo, first time I've ever done it, but I've just gotten out of the habit of reading, and I think that this will be a fun thing to get back into it. So I'm excited to do that, and excited to take you along with me. The stack of books here, those are the books that I'm going to be reading for the book bingo. I will obviously be reading other ones, but those are just ones I had on my shelf, and so I'm excited to share these books with you because a lot of these are ones that I read and I love, and I think that you will too. Okay, so here I would put like a summary of the book, but instead of that, since this is an introduction video, this is kind of a summary of why I'm doing this. So I've loved reading ever since I learned how to read. I remember reading a lot of books when I was in primary school, and as I got older, I could no longer just choose any book I wanted from the library. I remember going to the library and being like, "Mom, can I get this book?" And she was like, maybe not that one. Judging a book by its cover has become very hard in recent years. And even books that I read now, like, I go to websites, I read reviews, but I still don't know what's in them. So summaries and reviews are not even comprehensive, at least not for the stuff I'm looking for, so I assume that's the same for other people too. So my goal with this is to provide a trustworthy review on some of the amazing books that I've read and some of the popular books, so then you don't have to worry about the book you're about to read or that your child is about to read. Plus, I also want to remember the amazing books I read this year because so many years I'm like, did I even read anything? So this will also be a list of books that I've read, so I can be like, yeah, I am reading. So the sections that I've chosen to break down my review down into are relationships, words, things that happened, and feels. And I'll go into depth on what each of those sections are about next. So relationships. So that has to do with character relationships, obviously, but special focus on romance, especially like, is it clean romance? Is there anything to be concerned about? What about the kisses? Like, how in depth do they go? And so this is something that I look for when reading. Romance, so much fun to read, but I want it to be kind of clean, surface level, like PG. It's gotta be PG, maybe G. And so then I will rate each of these categories by giving them stars. 5 stars, it was amazing, super clean, loved it. And then that will progressively get lower. If it is 1 or 0 stars, I probably has something in the book that I wouldn't recommend, and I would tell you about that scene. So for this imaginary book that I'm reviewing, give it 3 stars in romance. Decent, but definitely some things to look for and be concerned about. Okay, words. This is pretty obvious. Is there any language in the book? I will not read books with language. Like, sometimes if there's just a little bit, that's one thing, but books with heavy language, I am not interested in. I do not want my books to have language because I don't think that's a necessary thing. But for words, I also want to look at, how it is written, because I've read some books that, maybe they're, older books, and so it's harder to read and get into the book. And so that may not affect the rating necessarily, but I want to tell you if it might be a harder read for younger children. I was just looking at Pilgrim's Progress a while back. Apparently it's written in Old English. I'm like, I have read that several times and I totally forgot. And so I was recommending that book and I'm like, actually, it's kind of a hard book to read. It's still amazing. You should still definitely read it, but, a younger child, maybe they need a children's version of that. And then the approximate reading level, I'll give what I think, should this book, what is it, the reading level at? And that's going to be a complete guess because I don't know reading levels, but I can tell you, look, I think that this is definitely appropriate for middle schoolers, the reading, they should be able to read it, no problem, or if it's at a higher level. Things that happen. Okay, this one's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, what happened in the book? And I want to try to be, not give spoilers away for the book, but I also want to tell you any scenes that are to be concerned about. So I'm going to do my best to do that without spoilers, but I will tell you if there's a scene in the book that might be triggering or it might have something inappropriate. And so anything dark, anything inappropriate, because I don't like dark stuff in books. Obviously, sometimes you have to have that in fantasy books to make it an interesting story, but there's a limit for me. And so I will tell you if there's anything that I'm like, that was a little dark, still a good story, but, so, and then in this imaginary scenario, 2 out of 5 stars, so there definitely were some scenes that were kind of inappropriate or kind of concerning, but it's not the worst. Okay, feels. This one is kind of arbitrary, but I have found that this category is important to me. Like, how did the book make me feel? And obviously, books, they make you feel different ways, Some might give a satisfying ending. I have read some that, I don't know, I've just get off different vibes, I guess, different feels from books, and sometimes I don't know exactly why I feel that way after reading the book, but I still think it's an important thing to consider, because there's obviously something in that book that made me feel that way. And so, obviously in the section, is there anything dark? And then, was the book good? Did I think it was a good book to read? And would I recommend it? Those all kind of are in this feels section. And so, this book, even though there were some things in the other categories that were maybe concerning, hey, I guess it made me feel pretty good because I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It had a good feel to it. And then I'll kind of go over final review. And so I've just got the stars rated for each section and then a final scoring. So this book, I would give it 3 out of 5 stars. And so maybe this wouldn't be the top recommended book, but it's not terrible. And so that's just kind of would be my final scoring, what I would rate the book. And then I want to give you any closing thoughts I have, anything that just was not mentioned in those sections, because those may not be comprehensive. And so for this book, I would say it's recommended ages 14 plus, because there were obviously some things that were maybe not appropriate for younger readers, or maybe it was a hard read. But anyway, this is where I'll put any other thoughts or comments I have about the book. And then obviously I have the age range and whether it's recommended. I also can see myself babbling a little bit about how good the book is, because I read some amazing books by some amazing authors, and I just am so excited to review them. And then I'll just, this is the book bingo update. I'd love to get Blackout on this, but we will see, because that is a lot of books to read, and I've not been reading that much. So, this is just a review of Book Bingo. And that's everything. So thank you so much for listening to my